You can't open a business publication these days without hearing about AI, right? It's everywhere, and finance departments are diving in headfirst. But here's the thing. There's this massive gap between all the money being poured into these new tools and the actual results that show up on the P&L. So today, we're going to unpack how the best in the business are closing that gap and turning all that potential into actual profit. Okay, so let's just dive right into the numbers. And honestly, this first one is, well, it's pretty staggering. A recent McKinsey survey found that the percentage of CFOs using generative AI has shot up from just 7% to a whopping 44%. And that's in a single year. I mean, think about that. A more than six-fold increase. The race to adopt AI is definitely on. But, and this is a big but, for all that hype, for all that investment, here's the reality check. Only a tiny, tiny fraction, we're talking about 5%, of corporate AI pilot projects actually deliver any meaningful value. That means for every 20 companies that start an AI project, 19 of them are basically spinning their wheels, not seeing any real return. And that brings us to the big question, the one we're really digging into today. What in the world is that successful 5% doing differently? How are they managing to turn what's just an experiment for everyone else into a genuine competitive advantage? Okay, so first things first. If you're going to use these tools effectively, you've got to know what you're working with. It's not just one big blob called AI. There are actually different levels of intelligence, and each one does something unique. Let's think of it like a ladder, the ladder of intelligence. On the very bottom rung, you've got your basic automation. This is stuff that just follows a set of pre-programmed rules. One step up, you have traditional AI, which can actually learn from data to make predictions. Then you get to the one everyone's talking about, generative AI, which creates brand new things like text or images. But at the very top, that's agentic AI. These are systems that can act on their own to achieve a goal. Knowing which rung you're on is absolutely crucial. All right, so now that we've got the toolkit sorted, where are the winners actually putting it to work? Well, they're not just throwing AI at the wall to see what sticks. No, they're being surgical about it, focusing on 3 specific high-impact zones. First up, strategic planning. And this is a real game changer. I mean, just imagine being able to run complex what-if scenarios in minutes instead of weeks, or getting an instant analysis of why your numbers are off. The real magic here isn't just about speed. It's about freeing up 20 to 30% of your team's time, letting them graduate from being number crunchers to being true strategic partners. And look, this isn't some abstract theory. Here's a real-world example from a global biopharma company. The before picture, it was a total nightmare of manual reports and spreadsheets. The after, they're using an AI agent to generate scenarios just by asking questions in plain English, right there in the meeting. The result was huge. They slashed the time it took to make critical resource decisions in half. All right, so the second zone where AI is making a huge difference. It's all about managing cash. There's this sneaky problem called value leakage. It's when the great discounts and payment terms you negotiated in a contract, well, they just don't show up on the final invoice. AI is fantastic at catching this. And just how big can this problem be? Well, take a look. One biotech firm found that this leakage was costing them 4% of their total spend. Now, 4% might not sound like a huge number, but let's put it in perspective. For a company spending $1 billion, that is a $40 million opportunity. And not a one-time fix, that's money back on the bottom line year after year. And that brings us to our third zone, cost optimization. This is where AI becomes a kind of superpowered detective, sifting through thousands upon thousands of invoices to spot waste and find savings that a human being would just never, ever see. And again, let's look at a real company. A big European bank turned AI loose on its indirect spending. All that stuff like energy, travel, you name it. What did it find? Thousands of these tiny little opportunities for savings that were completely invisible before. And while each one was small, they added up to a massive 10% cost reduction on a multi-billion euro spend. Wow! Okay, so the potential here is obviously massive. But let's not forget that scary number from the beginning, that 95% failure rate. Getting to that value means you have to know how to avoid the common traps. So let's walk through the 5 biggest pitfalls. First up, and this one is huge, is waiting for perfect data. So many teams get stuck here, thinking, oh, we can't start until our data is pristine. The winners do the exact opposite. They start finding value with the data they have right now, and they improve their data foundation as they go.
Pitfall number 2 is trying to boil the ocean. That temptation to transform the entire finance department all at once. The smarter play? Don't be an ocean. Be a river. Pick one specific area, prove the value, and then use that success and momentum to flow into the next one. All right, number 3, chasing shiny objects. This is when you launch a pilot just for the sake of using cool tech without a real business problem to solve. I'm telling you, every single successful case we've seen starts with a business priority, not with the technology. This next one, man, this is so important. We get so focused on the tech that we forget about the people. The biggest hurdle is almost never the technology. It's getting humans to adopt it. If you don't help your team learn and buy into the change, the best tool in the world is just going to sit there and collect digital dust. And finally, the 5th pitfall. Please do not try to put a high-tech engine on a broken-down car. Applying AI to a messy, fragmented process doesn't fix it. It just makes the mess happen faster. You've got to simplify and standardize your process first. Okay, so we've covered the amazing potential and the dangerous pitfalls. What's the one thing that separates the winners from, well, everyone else? What's the secret sauce? It really all comes down to 2 words: disciplined execution. This means you stop doing random science experiments. Hey, let's try some AI over here. Instead, every single thing you do with AI is deliberately tied to a real business need. It's built on a clean process, and it's designed to free up your best people to do more valuable work. And, the McKinsey report we're drawing from said it perfectly. The opportunity is very real. But getting it means moving beyond just playing around with new tools. It's about fundamentally rewiring how your finance team works to create lasting, tangible value. And really, that's the question I want to leave you with. It's simple, but it's powerful. When you look at your team, at your company's AI efforts, are you just experimenting or are you truly executing? Because that right there is the difference between potential and profit.